We talked about learning from history. Let's have a historical introduction. Independence Day, commonly referred to as the 4th of July, is a federal holiday here in America in remembrance of the Declaration of Independence of the United States. What's the date? July 4th, 1776. The Continental Congress declared that the 13 American colonies at that time, we weren't all those states now, we were just 13 colonies, we were no longer subject to nor subordinate to King George III of Great Britain. And now we were united, free, and independent states. All right, now, stay with me. That Congress, we're talking about history now, learn from the history, that Congress had voted to declare independence from July 2nd, but it was not officially declared until July 4th. Did you get that? We were initially declaring our independence from the 2nd of July, but it wasn't officially declared until 2 days later. The question is why? Those who fail to learn the lessons of history are destined to repeat the mistakes of the past. Stay with me, I'm going somewhere. Already having voted for independence, Congress created what we call the Declaration of Independence for the explicit purpose of explaining this decision. It was prepared by a committee of 5. I'm not going into that, but I did want to highlight the fact that Thomas Jefferson is the principal author. Congress debated, listen now, and revised the words of the Declaration to remove its vigorous denunciation of the slave trade. That was in 1776. So they knew slavery was wrong in 1776. And Thomas Jefferson initially had a vigorous rebuke of it in the original rough draft. But 2 days later, after debate and arguing back and forth, something was removed. What was removed? I'd like to show you. Now, I've put the website here because this is taken straight from somebody else's work, and I wanted to make sure that I credited it as I should. We're looking at Jefferson's original rough draft of the Declaration of Independence before it was edited, and I want to show you what was taken out. It says, he, speaking of King George III, has waged cruel war against human nature itself, violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty. Now you'll notice I am playing with the colors. Look at the brown font. In the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere, or to incur miserable death in their transportation hither. That's speaking of the North American African trade, in which 21 million Africans lost their life. Yeah, digest that number. Now, Jefferson goes on to write this piratical warfare. He akins it to pirates. This piratical warfare, the opprobrium, which means outrageous behavior. I had to look that one up. I didn't even know what that word meant. This opprobrium of infidel powers is the warfare of the Christian king of Great Britain. Now you have to understand, he calls him a Christian king. His words are dripping with sarcasm, because he's just spoken to him as an infidel, as an ungodly person. So the word Christian there is used sarcastically of one who professes to be a Christian, but their actions say otherwise. Do you know people like that? Are you someone like that? You say you're a Christian with your lips, but you don't see it in your actions? Learn from the past. Let's continue. Determined to keep an open market where men should be bought and sold, he has prostituted his negative for suppressing every legislative attempt to prohibit, watch this, or to restrain this execrable commerce, determined to keep open a market where men should be bought and sold, and that this assemblage of horrors might want no fact of distinguished dye, he is now exciting those very people, stay with me, to rise in arms among us, colonists, and to purchase that liberty of which he had deprived them by murdering the people upon whom he also obtruded them, thus, listen carefully, paying off former crimes committed against the liberties of one people, notice in blue, that's talking about the colonists, with crimes which he, King George, urges them, the colonists, to now commit against the lives of others, the African people who were kidnapped and brought into slavery. That, beloved, was part of the original Declaration of Independence. Now, I can't help but wonder how our history might have been different had that not been excised from the original document. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Can I give you another scripture? Look at James 4:17. Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Paul, what does that mean? If you know that this is the right thing to do, and you choose not to do the right thing, that's sin to you. If you know that this is right and this is wrong, and you choose to do wrong, that's sin automatically, ipso facto. Him who knows to do good and doesn't do good, it's sin to him because you knew better. Come on now, you know I'm talking right. You know I'm talking right. The colonists declaring their independence from a tyrant who treated them like slaves, most of whom were devout professing Christians. They knew slavery was wrong for King George III. Yet after a meager 2 days of debate, they wickedly compromised and appropriated slavery for themselves. Now, the history is a lot more complicated and convoluted, but this is truth in a nutshell.